So, 2017 was a shit show. Let's not lie to ourselves. As far as the commentary community is concerned, we may have lost the way a bit. We may not be dead. Hell, I'll never see the community as dead unless literally everyone leaves the CC altogether and no one makes commentaries in our ballpark. However, after seeing how the community has acted in 2017, calling ourselves a community is maybe stretching it a bit. People constantly wanted drama to stir, fights to break out, and an outcry for the CC to change was never unheard. Let's just hope I'm among those this year. And when people started having vendettas against each other, it fucking showed. This year had turned the community into an arena with everyone out for blood. We were basically the Hunger Games, and yes, as mediocre as the Hunger Games in writing too. It was okay, but we could have been a lot better. The era had only a handful of good commentaries by a handful of already consistently good commentators. Everything else was mediocre, with people either focusing too much on humor that was primarily stolen from other commentators, or too much on points that were kind of lackluster and bare bones at best. Even the videos I could consider good barely stuck out within the crowd of the rest of the videos in a group. And that's not mentioning how much the fuck the CC mentality hung around this year, with more and more people distancing themselves from commentaries as a whole, and then proceeding to make the community as a whole less of a favored place to contribute to. Hell, due to that and then some, people have straight up come to me and said that they fear joining the CC as they don't want shit to devolve when they make their first video. And with a large sum of commentators going out of their way to start fights over the most menial shit, have this weird asphyxiation with calling one another's white knights with hive minds for merely wanting to defend another person at all, and putting the goal of point-based critique to the side in favor of nitpicking production and lambasting their target for merely existing. I can't say I necessarily blame them. Now, I can't be the only one that's noticed these issues. I refuse to believe anyone is blind to these problems the community has, but despite how many people want to point these issues out, nobody wants to actually hang around the community anymore to make sure shit gets done. And throughout 2018, if Mama Doodles needs to buckle down and start giving out corporal punishment, I will. We really need to start respecting one another more and stop with the blatant destructive methods to constructive videos. What do I mean? Well, I'll tell you exactly what I mean in today's video. Yes, like last year, I will be very briefly going over various commentaries I've seen this year that really stuck out to me as the worst this year could have possibly had to offer. Also, like last year, I'm keeping it to one per commentator so the list isn't bogged down with the same handful of people. And of course, I had to have actually cared enough to watch the videos in question. So if there's videos you expect to be on here, don't worry about it. Either I didn't think they were bad enough to get on this list, or I didn't watch them to begin with. Hopefully this year's list doesn't start some pointless drama like last year's. It's still 2017, what do I expect? Regardless, let us get started. I think it's a bad sign when the beginning of this year's list is a video talking about how pedophilia is a bad thing. I didn't know that could be screwed up as bad as it was, but one thing I learned over the years that I've done commentaries is just because it seems like an easy goal doesn't mean someone won't fuck it up.
Pedophiles are some of the scummiest people on earth, in my opinion. The fact that someone would want to do something like that to a child fucking sickens me.
So how did auto-frozen critics screw up covering Cawthor explain devil's advocacy for how pedophilia isn't actually a bad thing? Well, surprisingly, one of his issues was looking at the entire video in a black and white stance, whereas the original video was trying to argue the existence of a moral gray area.
So there are several kinds of pedophiles. There are pedophiles which are people attracted to young kids, such as a 30-year-old wanting to have sex with an 8-year-old. There are child molesters who are 30-year-olds who actually do have sex with 8-year-olds.
There's not a difference between the two. What I mean is that people who have an attraction to younger children are just as sick as people who rape children.
Blatantly assumed his target was in of himself a pedophile.
Sympathy. Understanding between two people. Common feeling. Do you know what you're implying here? You're implying that you yourself are a pedophile. This is either shitty wording or you exposing yourself for being a pedophile, and something tells me it's the latter.
Saying drawing up aged characters still makes you a pedophile when the whole purpose of aging up characters is so that you're not drawing child pornography but merely putting an adult with a design similarly to a child's design within a more sexual circumstance.
Shit like that is fucked up beyond belief, and don't give me the aged up excuse because I won't buy that bullshit. It's still pedophilia if you find children below the age of consent to be attractive.
And just overgeneralizing the argument at hand. Cawthor was talking about people who merely have an attraction towards children being unfairly treated. He said nothing about the actions of pedophiles being good, just the mere fantasy being villainized. I won't disagree with the idea that the guy was certainly walking on a mile of sharded eggshells on hot coals, so the video should have been really easy to cover. However, the way Frozen here covered it kind of overall justified Cothrix's general statement, as he did everything in his power to villainize the man. Take into account, this is the least worst video on my list this year. Maybe not in subject matter, but just in sheer execution.
Now, I usually don't have much of an issue with kinks or fetishes myself, but if said kink or fetish can cause harm to a person, I feel like some kind of line should be drawn.
Pokemon. Jesus fucking Christ. This topic is always a blast to talk about when regarding the commentary community because that seems to be the most popular topic we cover. We're all just Poketubers in disguise, I swear. Anyway, what happens when you get a caveman into the modern age and introduce him to Pokemon? You get Dustin Makes Vids.
To limit the confusion, I decided to edit this video where I'm just going after the points that Kirby Star is making.
I won't act like I know that much about Hyrule Bard here, but one thing I have realized is he doesn't quite understand how production critiques work. The few videos that I've seen from him are merely excuses for people to be able to do what they want with their visuals without having any suggestions to how to maybe make those visuals just a little bit more appealing. Fitting from a man with a one-picture avatar himself.
How does that make him lazy? Just because he wants to use one image for his own convenience. And besides, it's his video. He can edit it however he sees fit.
I won't say Dustin is 100% wrong on the matter. I too hate how far the CC goes regarding production points. It's become genuinely a pet peeve of mine when half of the entire video is nothing but how someone can fix their visuals when the points are indeed so much more important. Which is why his video on Dark has me torn. He's not wrong on the situation, but he doesn't quite understand the conversation.
And that's all fine and well to give people criticism and feedback on their videos, but the way you're going about it is very arbitrary. And that's the key word for this commentary. You think that you're speaking for everybody, but you're really not. You're only speaking for yourself. And I can safely say after watching this video, you are no commentary expert.
Now, take these problems, put them in a much more condescending and repetitive manner, have him take out the important context from a conversation so it becomes easier to follow along to. Seriously, Tamashi shows up once because Kirby Star Warrior played a clip from her, and Overly Opinionated doesn't show up at all, so we have no idea where the fuck Hirome is arguing from, and you generally have his video on Kirby Star Warrior.
Again, this is arbitrary. Also, you're asking Kuromi to provide evidence that Tamashi has improved. Where is your evidence where she hasn't improved?
I swear, if I hear Dustin say that something is arbitrary one more time, I'm throwing a goddamn dictionary at him. There was no self-awareness in this commentary at all, and he ends it all by talking down to his target. Easily not a good early opinion of the guy.
You can make your videos however you want. It doesn't matter who you are or what people might say to you. You have control and power of your videos.
So, spoiler alert, it was really hard for me not to add any videos that were on me onto this list. I didn't want to look too biased now, but I figured it'd be inevitable. So, alas, there were quite a few videos on me this year, just like last year, that didn't try to argue me, but merely tried tearing me down as a content creator or merely as a person. So we're going to be seeing that a little bit on this list. And would you believe me if I said Obscurian is on this list? Oh? You totally would. Huh, well, that's understandable.
Mostly because this original video is stupid. Like, really, really stupid.
After dusting off my hands from the Joshua tree last year, Joshua himself found another branch of the chain that I didn't cover, and so he wanted to cover that himself with help from me, because people liked my 16-degree fuckfest phenomenon. And after we covered it, Blaze of Arcana, now known as Obscurian, though you'd have a hard time convincing me that Blaze wasn't just the cocoon stage between Skeletonation and the creature we know of now, decided to make a video on it, and Lord have mercy on everyone's souls.
Okay, why? Why this white background? Why these subtitles? Great job, I'm confused in the first 5 seconds.
Obscurian has this stupid mentality he likes to pawn off, being that apparently no one has the ability to improve or change in any way, shape, or form, and just constantly wishes to hold things over people's heads forever and ever. And while, sure, Joshua went on to blatantly ignore advice that I gave him in videos after the fact, at the time, Joshua was at least attempting to improve the quality of his videos, which was an objective fact. And that brings me to problem 2 with Blaze of Arcana's video.
You know what's funny? Yeah, you say he improved in some things, and I can bring up a list of things he hasn't improved in. Yeah, roll that list, please.
He tried arguing objectivity with subjectivity, claiming that Joshua hadn't improved anything at all when that was proven falsifiable. Doesn't help matters that Blaze built a few arguments off of missing context and trying to make an overarching point seem fruitless and stupid with no real direction towards it. It clearly showed me that the video as a whole was built on Obscurian's clear-as-day bias against Joshua as a content creator, with him not wanting to give Josh any kind of benefit of doubt that he needs to provide. While yes, push, Gazo, and shift plus print screen all work wonders, what if he's having some form of computer issues and he actually cannot screen cap the conversation between he and I all those months ago?
Then you know what? He should have used some other form of tool that takes screenshots. Snipping tool, Bandicam, light shot. With this in mind, what type of computer error doesn't allow you to take a screenshot with the print screen method?
I covered this video with YouTube Dude if you want to see the fullest extent of my problems regarding the video, but I think this is a reasonable summary. If there was one commentator this year that I expected better of, only to be unfortunately let down and disappointed with most of the videos that I watched of them, it would be Matt Plushie. I don't hate him, at least not as a person, but every video he released that I saw had the same kind of problems with them in almost every video. He was often his namesake, doing videos purely out of anger instead of reasoning, and dragged out a lot of his points because he refused to script a goddamn thing. And both of these issues are amplified in his video on Ephraim Josine.
Stop trying to molest your fucking mic.
I covered this video in the past as well, but to give another outlook, so basically the context was Ephraim got a shout out from some dude in the Brony analyst community, I think, and this guy called Misanthropony started attacking anyone who even liked the slightest bit of what Ephraim had to say, so Ephraim kind of called that out, trying to say Misanthropony was only not taking them seriously to cover his own ass. And there were ways to argue Ephraim's video as a whole, but Plushie decided that stretching for excuses was a much better option.
Okay, maybe you use your common sense, you would have realized this, but he never said he was done with the situation. He never said he was done with you. He said he didn't want to fight with the other guy and just wanted to admit, hey, maybe we both fucked up.
Combined with Plushie's spiteful attitude towards Ephraim and constant need to try to ship Josine with his microphone in an obnoxiously drawn-out running gag about how close Ephraim gets to his microphone, as if we needed Shad-based style art of Ephraim deep-throating his blue Yeti in existence, as he straight up demands it happens.
And that's the moment where he found out that he and his mic are inseparable and they should fuck. I want more of that now. Bring it to me.
Yeah, this commentary just as a whole gets really uncomfortable and really tedious to watch as a whole. And while yeah, a lot of these issues return in his videos on Panda Star and Night Tie-Dye, and admittedly they didn't get any less tedious in either video, I was still hoping that Plushie could have at least gotten better from my last video covering the guy. However, it seemed that quitting commentaries was much more of an attractive answer to him. I don't want to believe it was my videos that caused it, so I won't. It was probably just coincidence, but it's still disappointing regardless.
But hey, at least I fucking wasn't Ephraim Josine.
Take it from someone who is infamous for making a knee-jerk response. They don't normally end well. You know, I put together this list over the course of this year, and while I don't think I can pinpoint a more disappointing video that hit more obnoxious pet peeves, thinking it over, I'm not sure how much I can stand behind the commentary by the Corporation of Alternative Nitpickers being the absolute worst of this year.
Guess who's back? Back again. Jonah's back. Back again to teach a scrub a lesson.
I mean, it's certainly bad. It gave Ryan and I an hour and a half worth of problems to talk about, but at the end of the day, you could still tell they were trying to do a commentary on Halo Fan, which is much more than I can say about the later entries on this list. That said, the canned commentary still has a lot of problems with it, ranging from talking down to Halo Fan.
Sean has been improving. You remember Sean, right? Sean Sampson, your friend? He's capable of making decent points, and that's why I give him another chance, because I see potential. But you have a long way to go to being one of my co-op partners.
Creating actually arbitrary rules to what it is Halo Fan was supposed to be doing in his video by suggesting he should leave points separate from videos in the comments section.
I mean, I get what you're trying to say here. I mean, and to be fair, you're right. But at the same time, if this is all you're gonna say, put it in the comment section and call it a day.
Not understanding Halo fans' points while meanwhile making their own confusingly worded points to such a degree I began to wonder how many of them actually had English as their first language, and it was so disjointed that even the points that were right sounded wrong.
Even if Ezzy took some of those points from Doodletones, she was providing evidence to back up some of her claims. Another thing is that she actually came up with points by herself. She went deep into the argument, and to tell you the truth, I actually got lost half the time because she actually went into another set of arguments to back herself up.
With everything else on the table, a lot of their skits in between the videos they covered dragged on longer than they needed to, with no real substance to the skit even being there after 3 minutes, and you just have a video that amplifies a lot of each member's worst qualities. Felt overall spiteful towards Halo fan for no discernible reason, and just felt like a disappointing mess of a video from people I know can do better. If I was just looking at videos based on how much the videos bugged me, that would be one thing. This would probably still be number 1. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like this was solidly the worst of this year. If I were to give you the objectively worst commentator that came out this year, it would probably be Fluffle Yu-Gi-Oh! As he made videos pretty much on nothing but spite, constantly ignored points that were laid out on the table, and talked down to his opponents constantly with an ego that practically screams, "I know about more Yu-Gi-Oh! Than you." But if you want the most interesting specimen this year had to offer, that would probably have to go to the Dark Commentator. I can certainly tell Dark is trying, so I can at least give him that, but since his start, he had very shaky ground with his videos. They feel like they weren't scripted, even though I've seen scripts he had written. They feel very disjointed in thought, and due to that, for a while, I thought he was Fluffle. But he's not.
So a bit of context for the 3 people who haven't heard of this mess. So this guy named Keyblade Master covered this kid named Deku, who covered this guy named Jonah Smith, who covered me, and I covered Sonic the Dark EX, who covered Doodletones, and she also covered a really old video of Sonic the Dark EX.
Oh, yeah, the video, right. So, for those who have watched my previous commentaries may remember the first video on Pikachu Gamer 64, the video on Sonic the Dark EX, or my video on a kid named Deku. If you don't remember these, basically what amounted to a video of a child getting into commentaries with their first target being Gyrohedgy, who was a self-admitted troll, who stopped doing videos in 2011, spiraled into this chain talking about cyberbullying and how far a joke can go. The chain consisted of Jonah Smith, Deku, Dark, and the more important anchor of the video I'm talking about, Keyblade Master.
This is actually something I noticed just recently. You were arguing saying, oh, Jonah Smith used one that doesn't have a PNG for it. But here's the thing, Jonah Smith, it might not be ironic, but it is hypocrisy, because Jonah Smith said it's not okay to use a white background. Period. And then he uses a white background.
Dark's video on Keyblade is basically the equivalent to Milko High's video on Mr. Flipper Invader, driven on emotions with more shouting than one video needed to the point his audio even distorts and breaks due to the fact he pitches his voice down.
The fact that nobody else is offended by Sonic is the mother point, you actual idiot.
The main difference between Ryan and Dark, though, is at least episode 16 could ironically be enjoyed with unintentional hilarity behind it. Ryan knocking over his monitor and a black screen being his avatar is just funnier than it should be. Dark's, on the other hand, is kind of, what's the word, uncomfortable? If I could pinpoint an exact reason, it'd probably be because Dark spends half the video making excuses instead of actually debunking points, with the other half angrily throwing a tantrum and treating Keyblade as if he's some sort of ignoramus.
But then, you go on to show your friend who's been using Sony Vegas for God knows how fucking long, and then expect me to be on the same level. Are you mentally retarded, you idiot?
Fucking take a chill pill, my dude. So allow me to go off on a side tangent about live commentaries that I've learned over the course of doing them. Due to the fact that you're unscripted, going in semi-blind, and just overall don't have all your thoughts in one place, with chat being a potential distracting factor, live commentaries inherently have a weak link to them that normally should give them a handicap in regards to lists like these. However, there is no such handicap that can excuse the 2 flops this year came out with from DeviantArt ranter Icy Hazard and local ex-bot member The Masked Star Maker, or as I'll call him, Richard.
Alright, let's drag some bitches.
So I never thought I'd sit down to talk about 2 entries in one of the worst lists, but the more that I think about it, the more it only makes sense for me to talk about the 2 in tandem. They're not tied, I can certainly put one over the other, and that Richard's is easily worse than Icy's as far as I'm concerned, but the fact of the matter is, these are how not to do live-based commentaries. With an honorable mention to the disjointed fuckfest that was my Kirome Toa live commentary, despite it not being on the overall list.
It doesn't...
Also, Pretty Kitty, so it's because I'm acknowledging the chat here. Pretty Kitty. Oh, you know, you shouldn't put this video on public blast. You should bring it up with him in private because you have so-and-so issues. couldn't you say the exact same thing with Kirome's video on me? Couldn't you say the exact same thing with anyone's video on anyone?
Every commentary ever made.
Yeah.
So, what makes these two in particular stand out as October shitfests? Well, let's start with Icy Hazard. Icy's video on Heat and Mitsuru was just dripping with condescension and talking down to the style of commentaries as a whole, with her now ex-boyfriend Creep's work not helping matters in the slightest, as he apparently has the attention span of a toddler in a goddamn jingling keys factory ran by clowns, which made their response last only 45 minutes of their total hour-and-a-half runtime of a stream, where they barely covered 5 minutes of the original video and half their points just amounted to how Heaton spoke.
She does not have the voice for making rant videos.
She sounds so bored. I don't understand.
It's whatever her channel is. And I see. This is me attempting to sound sarcastic.
The echo chamber that surrounded Icy and Creeps also sucked, as half the points that were made in chat just kind of amounted to the focus of Heaton's avatar, and not actually trying to argue the points themselves, which really subtracted to the video as a whole, as Icy and Creeps both just kind of agreed to it all, showing they too would much rather look at the pretty pictures on the screen than actually have an intelligent discussion about one's Dead Rising OC.
Okay, rule number 22 of making rants. Don't use unrelated photos in your rants. I sense a Daredevil fan, yeah, and it fucking sucks.
I can at least give half that duo credit. At least Icy Hazard had long since learned from this mistake and is now, no pun intended, chill. While Creep's work is off beating his meat in the Medicare pool, trying his damnedest to become relevant again, talking as much shit as he can about Icy. Guess he's not post-breakup salt yet. Overall, this livestream was awful and didn't do much things to help the ever-growing pile of drama Icy was getting into at the time, and I'm glad we can look past this and move on with our next entry. Oh, right. I still need to talk about Richard.
And we are live.
Hi.
Yep.
Hello.
Yep.
Hello.
We're all having a death wish on this one.
Okay, so Richard, Illinois Guy 34, who I'll just call Ernie for this entry, Chirprox, Jorm, Mr. A, and the Illogical Reaper all got together and tried commentating on a video that Ernie had called mediocre, created by this dweebus named Doodletones. Now, that doesn't sound like an inherently bad idea until you realize that everyone in this lineup at the time had their own vendettas against Doodle. Justified or not, this kind of proves my point about how vendetta-based commentaries hardly work at all.
Like, I wanted to go in, possibly help people become better, help the person make better videos, than to simply, oh hey, your video is crap and that, it's garbage, you should feel ashamed of yourself.
They constantly talked over my points and then tried arguing those very same points that they obviously didn't pay attention to in the slightest, causing their arguments to become very disjointed in nature, and, thus becoming wrong.
Doodle, stop. Doodle, stop. Stop. Doodle, stop. Doodle, stop.
Frankly, it's like, if you make valid points but you often contradict yourself, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And not only that, you hurt the argument and you hurt your credibility. It's kind of like when people try to pull the whole, oh, hypocrisy doesn't make you wrong. Yes, it does.
They also, throughout the entire video, made up excuses for bad points instead of trying to debunk anything, straight up lied about what had been said in the original video, called a large handful of bad points jokes when those very same jokes had points attached to them that I was addressing, couldn't even stand behind rebuttals that they themselves pointed out, and it was all just packaged in about a 2.5-hour fuckfest that we know of now as possibly the worst live commentary to ever come out.
Let me answer your question. This was supposed to be a cameo. I'm sorry. Do you not understand the fact that, likewise, this brief appearance, this brief appearance was simply a cameo? This was supposed to be a joke! How?
Oh, yeah, there was also that 5-minute rant that Richard went on about a point that I even brought directly to him in a bot call, so that's fun. Honestly, I don't see why they didn't bring up these issues with me privately. Oh, don't think I forgot. No, yes, we're doing this, Jorm. What makes me any better? The thing is I'm not saying that he has to... The difference is, Jorm, I'm not saying he has to bring it to me privately. He can make a video on me, just as I have the right to make a video on him. Yeah, for those wondering what happened at DLC TV, these two live streams kind of imply what happened. Moving on. So honestly, I never thought that the first commentary on one of my countdowns of all things would be something that I would consider to be one of the worst commentaries of the year, given that, I'll even fully admit myself, they're fairly problematic at best, with me tossing out vague terminologies and never throwing out indefinites, outside of whether or not I like something. I do that, however, because I don't want to deal in absolutes, normally in my countdowns, because that always seems to cause problems.
Well, it's nearly been a year since I made that crappy Mr. Enter commentary now. Let's celebrate by causing even more drama in the steaming pile of bull feces that is the commentary community.
And then that 7th bloody dragon came around and showed me that it doesn't matter how carefully you play your countdowns, some idiot will always come around and do something retarded in response. It's firing at me at once, so turning an FPS game into bullet hell is practically spelling disaster for me. With Dragon taking everything at a literal face value where hyperbole and metaphor don't actually exist, such as where I call Payday 2 bullet hell when, of course it's not, but you know, guess I always have to spell everything out in black and white where no one can misconstrue what I say. Hey, guys, it's not bullshit levels in the sense that they're unfair, it's levels I dislike. Calling it bullshit was to spice up the countdown's name.
Oh, so you're gonna call a very important part of the game bullshit just because...
Oh, I can't handle all these SWAT officers are so easy to take down, just like those mean-spirited cyberbullies who criticize me in the comments of my videos.
Now cry for mom to change her diapers.
To make matters worse, when you really break down his video, his only point is get good. Yeah, because that worked so well when 11 of us got together and basically said that 11 different times during the Great Hindeka commentary. That was a factor for it being disowned, you know.
And Doodle, if you're watching this, you've got two options. 1. Man up, suck it up, and get good. Or 2...
Go to the forums and cry like the little bitch you are!
And this all follows him basically saying that his Mr. Enter commentary, where he blatantly attacked his target because of your old shit Mr. Enter pulled that he didn't like with mild misinformation opinions he didn't like and overlooking things, was bad. Dragon, how are you gonna go and say a video where you blatantly verbally assault someone was bad, only to go back and do it again without any hesitation and no points? You're smart, right?
If you really want a reason why Hoxton's breakout isn't a problem, here's why. On day 2, inside the police station, there are 3 openings where the police are funneled through. You can find a keycard that shuts off one of the openings, allowing you to funnel and mow down police much easier. As for day 1, well, all I can say is get an aggressive build, like the previously mentioned dodge and grinder builds.
And no, I don't believe he was trolling. I have reasons to believe that video was serious, considering he was trying to make valid points against me over the course of the whole thing, even surpassing the quite clear as day anti-Doodletones mentality we see real people throw out there. You guys can believe it was trolling. I believe that claim is damage control. Regardless, this video was garbage from the get-go. So, there was a lot on my honorable mentions list, 19 in total. But for the sake of not making what amounts to a second top 10 list, I'll limit myself to the standout bads of this year. Response to Ryan Rhino Mills by Supersonic Ward 15. Sonic Ward's response to Ryan was basically pulling an Ernie and pinned all the blame on his co-op partner for what amounted to a really lackluster co-op at best. And while I'd still say Ernie's was the worst of the two, his wasn't a commentary. That and Sonic Ward jerked himself off calling his videos decent or perfect, making his much more noteworthy. There's a Danganronpa joke here, I swear, by Doodletones. In hindsight, knowing that Duke does actually stand behind a lot of his video on the CC is also kinda shitty, but that wouldn't change the fact that my video hit a lot of buttons with people, as I just kinda came off as a condescending bitch myself. Yeah, when I say everyone was at each other's throats, I mean it. I was no exception to the rule. Loneliness Can Be Hazardous by Jack Stevenson. One of the prime examples of how annoying production issue commentaries can be is Devious Duplaghost's video on Metagalade. But since I didn't actually care to watch that all the way through, Jack Stevenson is the next best thing. Jack Stevenson constantly harps on lonely fanboys' admittedly piss-poor production quality with the combined efforts of making up excuses for bad points and setting arbitrary rules to how commentaries have to be done, instead of merely giving critique. Whose Life Matters Anyway by the Syndicate of Outcasted Commentators. Sock's video about Black Lives Matter is the truest sign of Sock's death. Nihilistic Snake shows yet again he can't keep his socio-political beliefs in check when doing a video, and this time had Chirprock's Serious Gamer and the Masked Reviewer, not to be confused with Richard, to puppet his beliefs in what amounts to a runaround with no real goal in mind. And finally, of course, the worst video of this year would have to be one that both condescends the opposition and refuses to actually try to debunk the commentary it's covering. And lo and behold, it's about Pokemon. Fantastic. Oh, and it's by a famous Let's Player with over 70,000 subscribers. Great! And it's on Manga Comment. Lord have mercy on us. This was a disaster.
Oh, you know a video is gonna be good when it starts with one of these.
So apparently Awesome Face Fraud didn't actually write the video, but is instead just a mere puppet for geek culture channel Psylocke Hawk, which does not make this video any better. Actually, I'd argue it makes it worse, as that mean that Psylocke Hawk isn't just condescending Manga Comment for daring to question him, but he also dragged in a friend of his to throw under the bus once the inevitable backlash hit. and used him as a mere puppet to White Knight for his video about Generation 7 Pokemon. If this wasn't the most shallow shit that I've seen this year, I don't know what is.
This is the biggest hypocrisy of this video. The fact that you managed to record to this point, edit this together, and didn't realize, hey wait, didn't I do the very same thing in this video, is beyond me.
Like, I didn't know it was possible to make a video that, even by common standards, was a little wonky and redundant, as he mostly repeated a lot of the same shit Ryan said in a quad op he did with Annabeth Ride, George Raccoon, and myself, looked like one of the best videos of the year by comparison. And Psylocke had watched that previously mentioned quad op, meaning he pretty much had no excuse to have a total of 0 points in the entire video.
That's what your point is? Do you not see how stupid that is? This isn't valid criticism, it's you being a fucking moron.
The entire video is shoving Common's mouth full of words he didn't say, tried talking down to the ideas of commentaries as a whole, and even threatened to straight up flag the video down because it wasn't quote-unquote fair use to show Psylocke actually has no goddamn clue what transformative means, and nearly threw that in as a scare tactic to make sure no one ever hits his video again.
Also, on a side note here, I really like how you included this part about fair use in copyright because, let's be real, if I was the person in question, I wouldn't hesitate to content ID the shit out of this video. In fact, I'd do it out of spite. I mean, YouTube still has little to no repercussions for issuing such a claim, even if it is turned over in your favor, but hey, I digress.
This was an incredibly infuriating video to watch, as Psylocke plays every card he can to try to be the shittiest person on the internet in regards to commentaries and criticism. And surprisingly, he succeeded, when goddamn 7th Bloody Dragon and Creep's Worker is fucking competition this year.
Why the fuck did I make this video? I have no idea. What am I doing with my life? Fuck me.
My final thoughts of this year? Well, I'm gonna say it again. Work on dropping the spite. Everyone, me included. We as a community aren't necessarily dead despite my long introduction statements, but if we keep up this toxic attitude towards one another, where we are in a constant need to be at one another's throats to be the most insincere and douchey person possible, where we tear one another down, I might wind up ending 2018 saying that the CC is practically dead, and I don't want to believe that's what we want. I want to believe that the community is better than that. I know I personally don't want to have a community I found myself a seat in to disband and die off. The commentary community, for both channel and friends, has been the best thing to happen to me in a while. I'd love to see the community flourish into something bigger, but where we're at now is not actually going to do anything about that, as people have straight up told me that they're afraid of joining the community as they feel they're going to get crucified the minute they make a bad video. I wish I could tell them that they're wrong, but when a kid has an upwards to 20 videos done on them after making just one bad video, or we see people actively reach for the throat and call one another's white knights and hive-minded mentality just for defending one another, with personal attacks and private conversations getting leaked out into the public to discredit a person as a person, I can't disagree with the stance that maybe someone wouldn't want to join. I'd also say pick your battles better, because Lord knows the beginning of this year was a problem with that on its own. And no, I'm not just saying that because I was the main target of mindless drivel and borderline transphobia for pretty much the entire year. The fact that the alt-CC shit even got as big as it did and stuck around as long as it did is exactly what I'm talking about. When people want to shit to stir and want a fight to break out, that's when we should start ignoring them and let them yell into the abyss. I won't say stop engaging altogether with drama, because drama does have its importance, but there gets to be a point where people are just going in circles, and instead of actually dragging it out, disengage. Because that's healthier for you, healthier for the other end, and healthier for the community. I had to learn that with a few people myself this year, given some of the dumber examples. Finally, just maybe overall we can start treating one another with a little bit more respect than we have been. I don't know, as I said, I've been seeing a lot of hostility around this year, and that'll only deter new people from wanting to join, and will continue to drive people out already here. Not saying you can't throw in pot shots here and there, not saying a little bit of cynicism can't go a long way. Hell, if you want to call your target a cunt, go right ahead. But let's drop the more personal attacks and attempt to be more civil with one another. Not only would that be a good thing for the community as a whole, but it'd also be a good thing for your commentaries too, as people tend to be more inclined to listen to more down-to-earth commentaries than the insult fest that people seem to think is the way to go. Of course, these are more mere recommendations from what I've noticed regarding the CC. You can choose to agree or not. At the end of the day, I'm just one person that like half the community dislikes as is anyway. I joined commentaries because they seemed fun, and they are. But it gets harder to have fun when the status quo is to tear one another down as much as you can. This has been Doodletones, and I'll get off my soapbox from now. Perhaps I can make a difference to the community for next year. Perhaps 2018 will just be another year. Who knows? Only time will tell. Have a good one regardless. Now that you made it this far, let's kind of briefly go over my top 10 best of the year, because honestly, that's not happening.